In this episode, Joel Caston shares his remarkable journey as a returning citizen. You'll hear about the challenges he faced upon re-entering society, the stigma he encountered, and the resilience that kept him moving forward. Joel's story is a testament to the power of second chances and the importance of providing support and opportunities to those who are re-entering society after incarceration. This is a poignant reminder that no one is defined by their past, and that with the right support and determination, people can rebuild their lives and make positive contributions to their communities. His story will leave you with a renewed sense of hope and a belief in the power of redemption. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Black Table Talk by the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens. And I have a very special guest, not only just a guest, but a friend. Not only a friend, but a brother. Brother, would you mind stating your name?
Yes, first and foremost, it's an honor to be considered a friend and a brother, because we definitely have the history that confirms both. My name is Joel Caston, and I'm happy to be on the Black Table Talk.
Yes, indeed. Black Table Talk, you are definitely at. And we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come, meet with us and, drop some jewels, open some eyes, give understanding as well as encouragement. So I'm going to ask you this first question. We're going to break the ice with this, and we're going to move forward from there. Man, how have you been?
I'm doing exceedingly well, right? I'm in a good head space, spiritually, mentally, and physically. The three aspects of development. So when you check those three boxes, then you become a superhuman. So at this particular form, and phase rather, I'm a superhuman. I'm a Superman right now.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, with no kryptonite. Yeah, with no kryptonite.
Absolutely.
Make sure. Okay, so I know with your busy schedule, what does a day in Mr. Caston's life look like?
Well, a typical day for me begins with spiritual acknowledgement. I wake up, that is to say, I always want to definitely make sure that I get my spirit clean. Daily devotion is very important for me. Mm-hmm. I deal with my daily bread every day. I read the scriptures. I do it in both English and Spanish to keep myself fluent in what's going on, what's in my heart. Followed by that, then it's open to the markets, man. After I get my breakfast done and everything, a little bit of meditation, a couple of phone calls here and there. The next thing is to get into the stock market. I'll open up and see what's going on in Bloomberg, pull out my charts and see what my position looks like, whether or not I'm take a long trade or a short trade for the day. That's the first thing I'm doing. Once I get done with that, then it's to the emails, looking at what's going on the insurance side of business. I'm also an insurance agent too, because I deal with that. From the emails, it's always a whole lot of emails I got to respond to that may be more so along the criminal justice space. I look at those emails and see what's going on. That's pretty much that in a nutshell, working on a number of projects at the same time, some nonprofit ventures, some for-profit ventures. Plate is pretty full.
You got 2 plates. And some side plates.
Yeah, side plates,
But there's definitely no room in your head for idleness.
Not at all. We heard the refrain many times before, idle mind is the devil's workshop. Mm-hmm. So if you're not occupying your time with something that is productive and constructive, then you will become destructive with your time. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to have a full plate, to have a full schedule. I can remember when I was younger on the inside, I did what I call I pretty much itemize every hour I'm doing something. And I used to send it to my siblings, my little sisters, so they can see also what I was doing although I was incarcerated. I want them to know that I was not allowing the time to do me. I was doing the time, as they say. Mm-hmm. So I always like to say I didn't spend 27 years preparing myself or rather waiting to go home. I spent 27 years preparing myself to never come back to prison again.
That's right.
So that same regimen I had on the inside is the same regimen I have on the outside. Mm-hmm. I'm doing the exact same thing. The only difference is I have more access to stuff, right? But my plate being full is just who I am as an individual. I want to have a full plate. That means I don't have any time for foolishness. I have no time to get caught up in anything that is not wholesome and productive. Right? So it's about productivity, increasing one's rate of productivity by being active, but active itself does not represent progress. You can have a lot of movement, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have progress. Mm-hmm. So you have to be intentional in what you do. And so me and my mindset, I'm like saying, okay, let me be intentional in what I do and how this particular activity can produce a cash cow or a monthly cash flow that can help with my monthly expenses as well as allow me to invest. I like to think, like I was saying today with the group I was lecturing with, that I work with what they call SIS, right? My SIS for me, SIS means savings, I mean investing, and S means spending. So you have SIS, S-I-S, saving, investing, and spend. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just deal with SSS. They just spend. All they do is just spending, right? But you need to learn how to save, invest, and spend. So when income comes in, the way I think, the way I'm programmed, I say, okay, let me save a portion of this, invest a portion of this, and what is remaining, that's what I spend. Mm-hmm. That's the currency catcher's way.
That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. I mean, being so we're talking about stocks right now, talking about money. You have shared with us that you are into stocks because that's part of your daily routine, getting up in the morning, things that matter. So do you care to share a little more light on stocks? Because me, myself, I do a little something with iCapital and do a little short term, 30-second and 60-second nodes, get something real quick and just hold on to it. So your experience and your dealings with stocks, do you care to share a little more about that before we venture on?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I would say is that just getting in that space, there isn't a lot of people that look like you and me in that space. Mm-hmm. So I can remember in the early 90s, rather the late 90s, getting on the .com era. I may be dating myself here, right? But in
you look good.
In the 2000, right, when the stock market was booming, there was a lot of publications and a lot of stuff that was going out there, like saying the stock market, people was becoming millionaires overnight. And I had a little money in the bank. My queen was like, hey, what you want to do with this money? And I'm like, well, I don't know nothing. At that time, I didn't know squat about investing, about the stock market. But I said, let me get back with you. And I used to watch a show on PBS that was led by the late Louis Rukeyser, titled The Wall Street Week. And I used to watch this show and they talking about assets under management and portfolios and things of that nature. And I'm like this, wow, I'm fascinated by the numbers, but I didn't see anyone that looks like me. There was only one guy that I saw the whole time I used to watch this show. He had the Uru Fund, John Rogers Jr., right? The first black face I saw on that show. And I'm like, man, I want to get into that space, right? So I started devouring every book in the library that dealt with investing. And over a period of time, I began to beef up my knowledge. I went from 0 to probably maybe 15, 20% understanding. And that gave me enough confidence to start saying, hey, here's some things I want you to do with my money. But what happened was that my family, my loved ones didn't know, if I didn't know anything, they was definitely in the blind about financial literacy, right? So it was like, so I had to write out my illustrations to tell them what I wanted to do. And in the process of me doing that, I used to share with my peers inside the facility that I was at. And they're like, who wrote that? And I was very shrewd with it, right? I used to take clippings from Wall Street Journal and cut out charts and stuff and type stuff up and everything, because I didn't want them to think that I wrote it by hand. I tried to make it look as professional as possible. And the process, guy was like, man, where'd you get that from? I wrote it. You wrote that? Yeah. And so that gave me the confidence to start teaching classes. So I started teaching classes inside of a carceral space. Now here I'm in the Federal Bureau of Prison teaching classes about stocks. Now I don't come from Wall Street. I'm the first one to admit it. Right. I come from 16th and W Street, Southeast Washington, D.C., the poor section of the city, right? But if I can do it and believe it and achieve, you can do the same thing.
That's right.
Right? So now it's like I come from this space, and now as the years progress, I begin to gain more and more knowledge about that space. And so as I said earlier on this particular talk, the same stuff I was doing on the inside, I would wake up in the morning, go straight to the TV, turn the TV on CNBC, and CNBC is not a popular channel inside a prison. It's not a popular channel, right? You got to be somebody to do that, right? Right. However, I used to put that stuff on CNBC, and I saw the vision. I knew I was not going to be in prison for life, one. And then two, I knew that this became my college. Those individuals that I saw on that show became my mentors. So I began to study that space, and when I got released from prison, the first thing I did was I went to a bank. Within that first 3 days or so, I went to a bank, opened up a bank account, and I opened up a brokerage account. And the money I accumulated in the inside, I immediately put in my checking and savings, and I also put in my brokerage account, and I began to start buying shares within the first week of me being free.
I hope y'all listening to that. I hope y'all listening to that. That is knowledge. That is wisdom given with some understanding. And all it takes is just a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't have to start off big.
Don't have to. You don't have to. You know, sometimes I like to say, if you think about going into a department store and it's filled with all type of products, well, that's like the stock market. The stock market is that department store, but the products are stocks, which meaning that you have an opportunity to own or be a part owner in a company. Now, we all use companies every day. We use products when we wake up, the hygiene products for our toothpaste and the soap that we use, the clothes we put on, the transportation that we choose, whether it be the cars we use, the clothes we want to put on our back, the food that we eat, the things that we do naturally every day. These are companies that produces these products. So if you are already patronizing the business, why not own that product also? So when the company makes money, you can make money right along with it. And the way things are now, you have where you don't even have to buy a whole share. Like meaning if one share for a stock is $100, but $100 is too much money, well, you can buy a fraction of that. You can buy a partial of the share, maybe a tenth of the share or a fourth of the share, right? You don't have to spend a whole $100. I'm trying to say you can put $10, you can put $25 or $50 or $75, right? So the playing field has been leveled for the ordinary person to get into the financial markets. All you need to do is open up a brokerage account, have your money transfer into that account, and you can say, hey, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, and I want to buy that.
That's right. Appreciate that. Appreciate that knowledge. Appreciate that wisdom.
Absolutely.
And you gave understanding.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to transition a little bit. How was your transition from the inside to the free world as a returning citizen?
Wow.
After 27 years.
27 years. My transition was untraditional in many ways. I walked out of prison already having my own place, things that I put in motion by the grace of God while I was on the inside, right? But the biggest thing for me was that my world turned upside down rather when I voted for the first time, and I also was elected to public office as an incarcerated resident, the first in the nation's capital to be a public representative while incarcerated.
Salute.
So I became an ANC commissioner, was pretty much representing advisory neighborhood commissioner. I represented 2,100 individuals. DC jail was enfranchised, meaning we was given the rights to vote. DC council passed a very progressive law, which allowed incarcerated people to vote, a law that should be in every jurisdiction nationwide. Here's a ticket for all the political people that's listening. If you enfranchise your incarcerated population and allow them to have an opportunity to civic engagement, those same individuals will begin to think like citizens on the inside, which will become a positive spillover effect when they return back home. So when you juxtapose my criminal charge and what I was charged for and sentenced for and the amount of time I served in prison, yet being acclimated in the political arena, participating in civic matters, prepared me to come home as a citizen. So this is a recipe that needed to be replicated in other spaces, allowing incarcerated people, the people who were once on the wrong side of the track, to be on the right side of the track, giving them the seat at the table. I'm at the black table now, but giving them a seat at the table of democracy, which can shape the mindset of an individual. What will happen? You would increase public safety. So I came home as an ANC commissioner with the responsibility of the individual and representing the people inside of DC jail who elected me, the women inside the Harriet Tubman Women's Shelter that elected me, and the individuals that reside inside the Park Kennedy apartments that elected me. I had to represent them in matters of parking, liquor license, and a slew of other things that gave me my tenure as a commissioner gave me deference, meaning that the District of Columbia council members had to take whatever I said in great consideration. They couldn't just, my complaint or whatever I raised as a resolution could not simply be ignored like a letter. It had to be looked at and responded to accordingly. That gave me an opportunity to be very active. And on top of that, Councilmember Gray appointed me as the co-chair of DC Redistricting Task Force for Ward 7. So now, in addition to my responsibility as the ANC commissioner, I was also over top of the thing where we deal with the redistricting every 10 years, right? The census lets us know how big one particular ward is and the section within the wards. We have to draw up maps and things of that nature. And wow, that was like, it was a tall order. It was literally an assignment that pretty much took up all my time. So at my first few months home, I was completely like just caught up into this political field, right? Where I'm dealing with meetings and Zoom calls and letters on top of letters and emails on top of emails, and looking at literally hundreds of maps that was presented to my co-chair and I, that we had to deal with that, and overseeing this task force of 20-something alpha individuals within the nation's capital, all with doctors and letters by their names, and the who's who and the workforce arena and things of nature. And here I am just returning from a carceral space into society, having the chairship over these individuals, and none of them even knew how long I was locked up. They didn't know anything about that. Later on, I revealed that to them. Like, wait a minute, you just came home from prison, and you navigated that space. You pretty much legislated that space with such grace and such, the accolades they gave me, and they were just blown away by the fact that I was recently released. Well, I have to credit in how I spent my time on the inside. So being incarcerated by itself isn't a detriment. Time is no one's enemy, whether you're in the inside or outside. But you can be an enemy of time. If you waste your time, you'll become a wasted individual. So we have to maximize our time, right? It's the only thing we all are given 24 hours, but how you're going to spend your 24 hours, it will make the difference between you and your counterpart.
That's right. So when you said that it was untraditional in the way you came home, definitely untraditional. Now, me being spending time with you when we were in, I can attest, and I am a witness. I will raise both hands and my feet that you definitely made great use of your time.
Thank you.
You walked heavily with God.
Thank you.
We fellowship together. Every time the chapel was open, the place of worship at that time was open, we was there together. And back then, I seen something in you, and what God has for you. Don't mean to turn this religious Black Table Talk family, but this is real talk here. And us as Black people, we're spiritual.
Yes, sir.
And you became, when you was then, it just had to manifest, a spiritual giant. You as a young man. Matter of fact, us as a core, there's about 4 of us. We was in our early 20s.
Yeah.
For the chaplain to ask us to come and speak at the service. But we talking about you and what God had planted in you then. Did you ever see yourself as an ANC commissioner coming home?
I didn't. A lot of people often raise the ancient texts as it speaks about the life of Joseph, someone who was incarcerated, and during his incarceration, God raised him to great heights. He left prison to become the governor of the nation that held him captive in Egypt. So from a biblical standpoint, I guess you can say seeds of greatness was planted inside of me, but I never thought that I would come home and do the things that I'm doing now. However, when I think of the goodness of God and how God operates, I'm not surprised, right? He takes someone who has been rejected, someone who was condemned to life of imprisonment, changed that individual first, and then changed their situation. So now, as a changed individual with a new situation, I'm going to new heights. Right, and so I learned to trust the process. So, and the process of me coming home, being able to achieve the things I achieved from a financial standpoint, and I'm still growing in that aspect. I'm definitely not where I aspire to be yet. I'm on the process of climbing that ladder. Same thing with the spiritual evolution and physical evolution is always a growth and process, right? But I would say the thing that long-term incarceration, the effect they have on the individual is that you can be successful in your professional capacity. You can be successful in your spiritual capacity, but in your personal capacity, you have to get in line and allow that process to catch you up. So here it is, we are middle-aged men in age, but in living experience, it isn't the same. Right. So in living experience, you still have an experience of an 18-year-old for myself coming into 18, right? And so there's still a lot of stuff that I'm experiencing for the very first time, right? So even though someone may look and say, wow, this guy, whatever accolades they want to be, whether it be my intellect or my physical appearance or whatever the case may be, but at the same token, I realized I'm still a young adult. I'm still a young man too. I'm still growing because I had a teenage experience before I was incarcerated. So now I'm able to experience things afresh and anew as an adult. And those experiences seem like, I can use the term like, it's almost like a virgin experience, right? A lot of this stuff is like, wow, I'm able to go here by myself, maybe to do this by myself. I'm opening up this and handling these type of businesses by myself as an adult. First time, right? And so that has a weight on an individual. And I think that as returning citizens, especially those of us who have returned back home from a long stint or long-term incarceration, grace should be afforded while we're trying to figure out this new life that we're living.
That's right. Well spoken. Well spoken. I mean, I share, in that, same experience along with you, and it's just, if you don't allow yourself time and grace, like you said, and just get in your own lane and allow these things to come to you, you might become shipwrecked. You will crash. But I believe and I know that God has his hand on you. And we can only move so much to the left or so much to the right when God has his hand on you. And for you not to know that you're going to be into the politics, to be, into the things as an advocate for the community and a voice for the community and a force for the community. Man, you didn't choose that. It chose you. And in doing so, you was equipped while on the inside. So now here you are doing what God called you to do, what the calling called you to do. And we're sitting here at the Black Table Talk, as well as other forums that you've been sitting in, and, speaking, teaching, living it all out. And, I applaud you. I embrace you. And I thank you every time I think about you.
Absolutely.
Every time I see you, because I see you when I don't see you. I hear when I don't hear. That's cause crazy. It's like he's not omnipresent, but here is Mr. Caston. I keep hearing this name.
Yeah.
I run across you on the phone. I run across you in other different places. I was like, man, this man, he's definitely making strides.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you're doing, and now you are teaching 1 day a week for Ready for Work. My understanding. What is your curriculum and what you teach during that time?
Yeah, I'm teaching the building blocks of wealth, right? We as a community, particularly those of us who come from underserved and disenfranchised and marginalized communities, we never received financial literacy, which was translated to being financial health, right? We're not healthy financially. So these building blocks of wealth is teaching individuals how to begin to build wealth. We're not talking about a get quick rich scheme. We're not talking about how to become rich overnight. But we are talking about building wealth, particularly generational wealth, which was the topic today. And we unearthed some jewels on how we can be able to build generational wealth by utilizing insurance policies. That was the topic today. But we covering a lot of things from banking and building credit and building a portfolio and what retirement looks like, and even what it looks like being your own business owner, owning your own LLC, These are some building blocks of wealth that we definitely need, especially those of us who are returning citizens who was trapped out of mainstream America for such a long period of time, right? When you think about that, we were forfeited the opportunity to build up a nest egg. So there's no way we can actually do it with our own strength or might. We have to utilize the leverage that the financial markets gives us. So when we allow our money to work for us, and by the way, money is the greatest worker on planet called Earth, right? It never calls in sick. It never takes a day off. It even works on holidays, right? It can work 24/7. Money is a super worker, right? So when we beef up our knowledge, and that's what my book Currency Catchers is all about, available on Amazon.com. Currency Catchers, then the beginner's version, what it does is it begins to demystify the stock market, place the wonky language of investing into layman's terms. It makes it plain and simple for everybody to understand it. And once we get understanding, as it states, when you know better, you do better, right? So when you become in the green, you know now you can grow, right? And so this is something that traditionally we have been taught, and it's the reason why. We go all the way back to redlining that took place in the early 19th century, where people of color, Native American, Hispanics, and African Americans were trapped out of financial things. They had policies that kept us out of that stuff, and it's on the books right now. You can look it up and read it. So it's not that we don't care about these things. We have been deliberately kept away from this information. But now that we live in the informational era, right? We have access through the phone. You can Google anything I'm saying and fact check it at the speed of a dime. So it's this stuff is now it just takes someone who have access to the material before maybe the average individual, and who have been studying as long as I have been studying, that can take something that's complex and make it simple, right, for an ordinary person to understand. But at the end of the day, the objects that make your money work for you, and you not simply working for your money.
Yeah. It's a pleasure, man.
Absolutely.
It's really a pleasure.
Yeah, it's really mutual.
See.
I want to say something to you, right?
Okay.
When your lawyer reached out to me, right? I was like, do you know Travis Brown? Like, do I know him? Are you kidding me? Write a letter for who? Him? Absolutely. When I need to write it. When I need to send it, right? I'm like this. I was honored to be able to advocate for you, and that's what advocacy looks like. And here's the deal. Even though I'm at the black table today, let me shed light on the 200 plus former juvenile lifers who are now in D.C., who are doing great work. These are the same individuals at one time who was wayward, who was rambunctious, unruly, stiff-necked, hard-headed. They was rivals, but look at us now. 40 plus years old, middle-aged men working to save the communities that we once were agents of destruction. Now we're being agent of peace. We all in our various capacity doing things, right? If a policymaker is thinking with his or her right brain, I would think like, wait a minute, who will be the best person to solve this complex problem, a problem that they have lived, they have outgrown. Now they're coming back with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh perspective to reach someone that they cannot reach. They cannot reach that person. But because we have skin in the game, we know what it looks like, we've been there, done that, as they always like to say, we are the individuals that can advise that we can put the right type of policy in place to change the nation, right? So I like to say what happens in this city sets a standard for the nation. We set a standard for the nation. DC does. So DC has to get it right because everyone is watching us. So the way DC deals with and treats its most vulnerable population, the men and young women that look just like you and me, that come just from where we come from, right? That's where we need to direct our resources. We need to deploy our resources into that particular area, right? So we start from the very beginning, education. I have the privilege to teach a premier DC school. And one of the things I automatically recognize that, man, these students are very bright. They They are very bright. They are very smart. But also understand they have access to some resources that are not in some of the lower class sections of the city.
Okay.
Right? So there's a disparity right there. These younger folks, man, on the east of the river, they don't have the same resources at their disposal. And not only they don't have the same resource at their disposal, they also battling with a lot of external things and internal things in their homes. So their homes oftentimes are fragmented, right? And then when they leave outside their homes, their communities are also fragmented. Now you take that and you take them inside of school, they're already distracted from the stuff that they're dealing with inside the house and in their community. Then they come to school, it's hard for them to learn. It's hard for them to hear from the teacher. So the teacher's working hard. The teacher has to be the teacher and the parent. Because a lot of times the teacher is functioning the capacity of being someone that's stable and reliable like a parent. Because the parent may be stressed out or pulled too thin in different directions. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I'm very proud of the fact that one of the things I was able to do when I first came home, I was contracted by an organization called That's a Plug. And what I did with them was I provided financial literacy to an after-school program. We went to the gyms, the boxing gym.
Okay.
And when we did the boxing gym, we was meeting the young boxers saying, hey, you learn the skill of boxing. We want to teach you emotional intelligence, and we also want to teach you financial literacy. So one day when you become a boxer, first you got to have a good mindset. You must know how to control your emotion to be a good boxer. And second, once you make your money, you need to know what to do with the money that you make. Well, it was a very rewarding feeling. I really enjoyed that, seeing the light bulb go off on these young people's minds. So a lot of times we're thinking about the 18-25, the emerging adult population, which the population that I had the privilege to start a young men emerging program inside DC jail, where we targeted the 18-25 young adults. My co-founding mentor, Michael Woody, and I, we put together a curriculum that dealt specifically with the 18-25. But when it comes down to increasing public safety, we got to go below 18. We got to go down into elementary school.
Yep.
We got to get our young people before
they get out there.
So one of my good friends, Terrence Davis, and his philosophy, like the no entry piece, right? We got to learn how to turn off the faucet. We got to get to a place before they become contaminated by the streets violence and all the workings of the streets. If we can get our young people in the beginning and get them thinking like what it means to be a citizen, right? What it means to be a community member before they become infected by the street culture and the drug and violence culture, right? If we can get them thinking like that in the very beginning, we can turn the faucet off. We won't have so many people committing crimes, so many people going inside of prison from the very beginning. Let's go to the roots. We got to go to the roots. Now, roots, it doesn't. Now we're talking about investing long term. We're not talking about the immediate turnaround. We're not saying that we could do something today because now the propaganda is that so-and-so got shot yesterday and so-and-so got killed the other day. And now we up in arms as we should be. And we're looking for an immediate fix. But I wish we had things in place that before that young person pulled that trigger, before that young person begin to think that that's the only way that he or she can solve their problems, if we had something in place back then, right, they would never pull the trigger. So we need to start focusing on what it looks like now, investing in the infrastructure piece, investing in our young people beyond what they get traditionally, because if you want something different, you got to do something different, right?
That's right.
So now we got to do something different for the young people. Don't tell me about the young ones who are doing wrong. I'm talking about the young people who haven't done anything. We need to have so much stuff in place that we can strategically guide them around the dark trappings of the dark life inside of the black market that leads towards drugs, guns, and violence. We can allow them to, they can deter right around from that and go right on the right path. And in the process, we will increase public safety.
Almost like a human GPS.
Absolutely.
Take you in the direction needs to be taken. And if something gets in the way, it's going to provide a detour for you.
Yep, exactly. That's what we got to do. And it won't happen immediately. Right. So we talking about changing generations.
Right.
So now we looking later on down the line. Now what happens is that because we have less people committing offenses, then crime goes down, public safety increases. I have a program I'm not even going to reveal right now, but I have a program in my mind that we can be able to execute upon this idea that I just painted. And it involves every Washingtonian who can invest in the program, right? Every Washingtonian has a stake in the program. Those who have the policies and the policy makers and those who have the fundings and the resource to bring the program together, seek me out. Let's talk about it. Let's get on the books. And what we did inside of DC jail, what I was privileged to do inside DC jail, creating a Young Men Immersion program, let's do something grander and bigger here. Talk to me. Let's work it out, and we can change our city.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it from the brother. You know, I ain't gonna hold you up. I know you got a lot to do, cause we can go on and on and on. It's a lot of work that needs to be done. You're doing a lot of work, and there's a lot of people who need to get involved with this work. What does the Bible say? You know, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few.
Yeah.
And what I have seen, I said I was gonna let you go, but what I have seen within the last year and a half, a lot of the homies are coming home from the IRA. When there was not a avenue for us to come home, parole board was shutting us down. Laws weren't being passed for DC residents. Now, through this IRA, where they're not concentrating on your offense or your crime of life, it concentrates on how you was brought up. These men are now coming home. So it's a lot of these laborers that's coming home that need to do some of this work that's out here within their communities, within their neighborhoods and things of that manner. So I've just said that to say, well, based on what you were saying already about this plan you have in place that you're not revealing. But workers are coming home. Returning citizens are coming home. But we just have to make sure their mind is in the right spot that it needs to be in. And that's in a mind of public safety, a mind to change, a mind to uplift.
Yeah, I would say that the lion's share, and I'm a numbers guy, I would say 70% to 80% of those individuals, even 90% of those individuals, have already committed to doing the work. What I like about programs like this here, it gives us an opportunity to champion that. Oftentimes when the work is being done, like this is the backlash of someone like myself who has been widely publicized, right? Everyone can hear about Joel, what Joel did. Joel Caston became the first district, Joel, all those things like that. But we may not hear on the big stage the Anthony Pettys of the world, right? All these people right here, that's the Wendell Watsons of the world. These people that's doing great stuff, right? They're doing remarkable things in the community. So I'm the first to say that first from the inside, there are other Joels. There are other people who have the same quality, the same traits, the same acumen, the same intellect, the same discipline to be a council member, to be a political figure, but they're being forfeited the opportunity to exercise those gifts, right? So one of the things I would say, if I keep the focus right there, one of the things I'm very proud, and I shout out to Councilmember Gray, by allowing me to be a co-chair of DC Redistricting Task Force, the biggest thing I was able to do was to advocate for DC Jail to be its own single-member district. So now DC Jail being its own SMD, what that means that they don't have to compete with people outside of jail to run for the seat to be a commissioner. So I could have ran with the title of being a commissioner representing DC Jail. Now that I'm free, I represent DC Jail, Harriet Tubman Shelter, and the people that reside in Park Kennedy apartments. But I said to myself, no, I will not be able to effectively and adequately advocate for my people on the inside because I'm no longer in the inside. I'm no longer there. They need someone who is there to advocate for them. So what I did was, when I was over the redistricting task force and we drew up those maps I told you about, right? There was no conflict in the numbers and making DC Jail its own SMD. So inside of these wards, Ward 7, I'm in Ward 7 now, right? Each ward has its own, it has multiple single member districts, right? Each single member district can have a commissioner that represents that SMD. So I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to advocate for DC Jail to be its own SMD. So right now we have Mr. Bishop, who is the ANC commissioner of DC Jail. He's inside DC jail and he represents his constituents inside of DC jail, right? So that right there was a very remarkable achievement that I'm proud of, because I said it'd be better for him or anyone to represent themselves while they're in that space right there, right? Representation is important. But I say that to say this here, with the notoriety that comes from that, with the publicity that comes from that, the spotlight is there, but there's so many other people. So we could have ran and said, Joel, he's the unicorn. No, I'm not. There are other Joels, right? And all other Joelitas también, mujeres, women, right? That can be able to represent themselves, but they have to be given the opportunity. So for the policymakers, for Congress and Senate and all those policymakers, they need to start thinking that inside of these jurisdictions that we call carceral spaces, if you allow these individuals to participate in civic engagement matters, what will happen is you will increase public safety. And that's a boon for all citizens, the increasement of public safety.
All right. All right. Brother, I got to let you go. I appreciate you. I appreciate this time. I marvel at what you're doing. And not only what you're doing, but what you're going to be doing as well. And the men and the women that's going to piggyback, that's going to get on this wave, man, and a wave that we prayerfully and hopefully does not come to the shore. It just keep on going, because you know when it comes to the shore, it's over with. Nah, a lot of work needs to be done in the city. And from generation to generation, you just keep up the good work.
Thank you, bro.
And you keep on getting men with you.
Black Table Talk.
Black Table Talk. We signing in and we signing out, but the work's not done.